Welcome everyone, and thank you for attending today's webcast, AutoCAD Civil 3D and InfraWorks 360, the Dynamic Duo. Our presenter today is Scott Hawker. He is a solutions engineer with Hagerman & Company. Before we get started, I'll let you know that you're in listening only mode. If you have questions during the presentation, you can type them into the question panel on the right-hand side of your screen, and they'll be addressed at the end of the presentation. As we close down the session today, you'll be prompted to fill out a survey, and we ask that you take a few moments to fill that out. This webcast qualifies for one AIA continuing education credit. If you'd like to receive this credit, just leave your AIA number on question 3 of our survey. Additionally, all registrants will receive a follow-up email containing a link for the recording of this presentation. And with that, I'm going to hand things over to Scott.
Great. Thank you, Ashley. I appreciate that. Good morning and good afternoon to those of you that are in the Eastern time zone. Welcome to our webinar for the day, and it is BAM POW Autodesk's Dynamic Duo, which is Civil 3D 2017 and InfraWorks 360. If anybody's old enough to know, the BAM POW was kind of a takeoff on the old 1966 Batman television series, as well as the Dynamic Duo. Like Ashley said, I am Scott Hawker. I am an AEC Solutions Engineer for Hagerman & Company, and I'll be your presenter for the day. As we all know, with civil infrastructure professionals, we face challenges to support transportation, land development, utilities, and energy infrastructure. So everything is changing pretty much day by day as what's required I know that for infrastructure, I know that that's a big push now is to improve our infrastructure, roadways, and things of that nature. So we need to find new ways to design our projects in context. For example, being more economical, being more practical, resilient, and actually even being attractive, because there's nothing that grabs someone's attention like a nice looking set of plans or a very nice looking presentation. So with that, Civil 3D and InfraWorks allow us to, as engineers and designers, optimize our design alternatives quickly so that we can work through our design issues before we have any problems in getting to the field. So with that, I'm not going to bore you today with a bunch of PowerPoints. I'm actually going to come in and actually show you some of the interoperability with Civil 3D and InfraWorks. So if you bear with me for just a second, I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to drag Civil 3D over to the big screen. Okay. And I've already gone ahead and created a surface, and I've put in a polyline for the boundary of my project. For time's sake, hopefully we all know how to go ahead and create a surface and things of that nature. I've also gone ahead and laid out some parcels, right-of-ways, etc. And I also have kind of my base proposed engineering drawing, what I actually want this project to look like. There are a couple of different buildings. We've got roadways, and we also have some ball fields that we're going to try to bring in and hopefully show it in InfraWorks, as well as bringing it back into Civil 3D. So with that, I'm also going to go ahead and bring InfraWorks over. Hopefully everybody has opened it up, is familiar with InfraWorks. And this is my project area. Okay, this is in Oceanside, California. So it's kind of densely and sparsely vegetative here. We've got a main road running across the top of the project. We've got a development here. And what we're going to do is, like I showed you, we want to have a couple of office buildings and some athletic fields running through here. So we're going to have a couple of local roads, collector road running through. And this is my master. So if I come back and I go out to InfraWorks and I use the model builder, this is actually a pretty nice piece of software. It allows us to go ahead. We can search anywhere, not only in the United States, but the world. So if you are creating any type of projects anywhere else, say Mexico City, as you can see on the screen, Venezuela, etc., it doesn't matter. It now encompasses the entire world so that you can access it. So in order to find your location, I'm simply going to type in Jeffries Ranch Road, and it automatically finds it for me. So there it is, Jeffries Ranch Road, Oceanside, California, US. So I'm going to click on that, and it's going to take me directly to the project location. Now this is accurate. I've already gone ahead and taken a look. Okay, and what's going to happen is Model Builder is going to go out. It's going to go ahead and bring in my roads. It's going to bring in any buildings that may be populated on the site. Now it's not going to bring in homes or anything like that. It typically will bring in large corporate buildings, skyscrapers, things of that nature. It's going to bring in Bing imagery, and it's also going to bring in terrain. Okay, so at least initially we're going to get some sort of terrain. Okay, now with that you have the option to go ahead and take a look at aerials once you get zoomed in far enough. So you can take a look, see what the project looks like, etc. And if we go far enough over, we're going to see that there's our development that we're tying into. So there's Jeffries Ranch Road, and there's Spur Avenue and Mission Avenue to the top. Okay, so I'm just going to go back to road, and I'm going to zoom out to the approximate location. I'm going to go ahead and type in what I want to call this. So in this case, we'll just say Bam Pow. And then I would go ahead and create the model. Now I've already gone ahead and done that, but this is going to get you exactly what you're going to see here on the screen. Okay, so this is my master. You're going to see roadways. Now I've already actually taken out my Mission Avenue because of the issue that I have with it. I don't quite line up with my aerial, so I took it out. But what you'll see is it will bring in the roadways. Now I've added the roadway names here. So these are just 3D objects that I've brought in from SketchUp and created so that I can give my customer an idea of where exactly we're at in the project. So I've gone ahead and labeled most of the existing adjacent to our project. Okay, there's Spur Avenue, and we've got Mission Avenue all the way there at the top. Okay, so this is what you're going to get. Now you're also, I told you you're also going to get some terrain, and if I turn this up on itself, we're going to go ahead and see that. Now this is a pretty large parcel here, and it's actually pretty ugly to try to develop, quite honestly. We've got a low spot here and another low spot here. Looks like drainage areas. So we're going to have to take a look at what's going on here. Okay. Now with that, you're going to get terrain. Okay. But most generally, we're going to have a survey crew go out and we're going to have it shoot our topo. So we're going to have a more defined and hopefully a more accurate surface once we get into InfraWorks to bring in. So the first thing I want to do is I want to go ahead and bring in my existing surface, okay, and kind of update my terrain here if at all. So what we're going to do is we're going to go to our data sources, and let me just come back here for just a second. You saw that I had my Civil 3D surface already squared up and taken care of. So in this case, what I need to do is I need to go out, and I'm going to use the entire Civil 3D drawing file because I'm creating my project as data references, so I'm going to have a very small surface drawing. I'm going to have a very small parcel drawing, a very small alignment drawing, and then we're going to bring them together at the end for presentation. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to select AutoCAD Civil 3D. We're just going to go and access it. Okay, site contours. And I'm going to simply click open. Okay, so basically what we're doing right now is we're connecting our InfraWorks model to our Civil 3D drawing file. Okay, so I've got two sets of surfaces here that I don't need. I've got X topo, X road. Existing site is actually a composite of these two. So all I want is that one. I'm going to simply toggle it on, and I'm going to hit OK. Now with that, InfraWorks will adjust our terrain, if any, okay, and it will update our model based on our existing surfaces. Now this is also going to work if we have any proposed surfaces as well. You can bring those in and you can connect to those as well. Okay. Now with that, I am going to go back to Civil. And I want to go ahead and I want to bring in my boundary so I can get a better idea of how the extents of this project are going to look. Okay. So with that, I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to create an SDF file. So I'm going to use the map DWG to SDF command. All right. And I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to create an SDF file. Now I've already created one for boundary, and I'm just going to end up canceling this. But you go ahead, it opens up the export dialog box, and you're going to want to either select manually or you can select by layers. In this case, I would select manually and just zoom in and select my polyline. Enter takes us back. And in this case, you want to treat closed polylines as polygons because that's important. Okay, InfraWorks can't see it. If it's open, it's just going to be line work. If it's closed, we can actually create areas. So with that, I've created it. We'll just cancel back out. Okay, and I'm going to go back to InfraWorks. And we're going to go ahead and bring that in as a coverage area. So I simply select my feature type. Okay, we're going to go to our SDF files. And I'm going to bring in the boundary. And I'm going to open. Now I can drag and drop as well. For the purpose of the presentation, though, I'm just going to go ahead and select it via Windows. And it comes in. There it is, vector, but we've got to configure it. So we're going to select configure. And we've got to give it a type. In this case, I want it to be a coverage area. Because with a coverage area, I can now give it a style. Now, I do want to step back for 1 second. Please make sure that you have set your coordinate system in your Civil 3D drawing. In this case, it's California NAD 83, okay, and it is survey feet, all right, because we want these to go back and forth seamlessly, and they will if you set your project up correctly. So right now, it's going to bring in my boundary in the exact location that I have in my civil drawing. So I need to come back to my common, and I'm going to give it a style because I want to go ahead and see it. So I'm going to select grass with gravel border. Okay, so we're going to select that, and we're just going to simply say OK. We'll close and refresh. There's my project file, or excuse me, my project boundary. Okay, now I've brought it in as grass, so you can see it drapes itself over my existing terrain. And we can get a better idea, hopefully, of what our project looks like. Okay, now with that, let's say I'd like to see my contour lines. All right, so this is great, but I'd like to see my contour lines. Well, in order to do that, I need to create either a parcel or an easement, okay, within InfraWorks. So I'm going to go to my Design, Review, and Engineer location, and then I'm going to go ahead and I want to create an easement. So I select my Draw and Design, and I want to create an easement. Now, I can set up a style here, which is no problem. I can even set it so that it's transparent. So if I want to show my contours, I simply select with my cursor, the area that I'd like to see. Double click at the end. Whoops. Double click at the end, please. There we go. Okay, now let me move my data sources over to my other screen here real quickly. All right. What you need to do is you're going to see your design card. Okay, so this is an easement. If you want to enter a name, you can. If you just want to simply call it something like contours, great. Okay, but down here at the very bottom, I want to show my contour, so I actually have a panel here so that I can do so. So if I simply move over and click toggle on, there's my contours. Okay, now labeling them is a little bit more difficult. You can't label them in InfraWorks like you can in Civil. However, you can create an SDF file for your labels and you could bring them in accordingly. Now in this case, we're pretty tight and we've got some serious grade issues as we saw before. But if I want to change the interval, say from 2 foot to 5 foot, I simply click and hit enter, and now I see my contours so I can get a better idea here, okay, of what's actually going on. All right, so with that, I've got my coverage area, I've brought in my existing surface, and I've actually given it some contours. Now, what I like to do is I like to create different proposals excuse me, within InfraWorks. So I basically just went ahead and created a new proposal. So if I say add here, it's going to prompt me for a name. And in this case, I called it surface. And it makes an exact copy of my master proposal. So if I come into surface, it's going to take just a second to regen. Okay. And in this case, I've gone ahead, I've added my north arrow just in case. And then I would create my surface here. Okay, I did it on the master because that was the first one, but I should have done it on my surface. So with that, I'm going to go back to my master. Okay, and what I'd like to do now is very quickly go ahead and add my parcel lines. Now, I've got parcels created in Civil. So I've already had my designers or my surveyors or whomever I choose to create my parcel layout. I've created Civil 3D parcels. So that's my pond. I've got some single family, some multifamily here. I've also got commercial right of way. I've got a school, and I've also got a municipal reserve. Okay, so it's going to be open space there. So in this case, what I want to do, I do want to create an SDF file or a spatial data file, but I don't want to map DWG to SDF. I want to actually utilize the output command, excuse me, the output tab, and export civil objects to SDF. Okay, now I'm going to go ahead and select the location, and I actually have parcels here, and I'm going to set save. Yes, I sure would like to replace it. Okay, so it's going to write it out as an SDF. It's going to show me my drawing coordinate system. Okay, and I'm going to click OK. Well, that's just grand. You're supposed to overwrite it, but let's do this. So we'll do parcels, and we'll say 01, okay, and okay, because I want to show you this. I want you to come down here and look in my command line, exported 23 parcels. So it's going to show me exactly what it's exporting. There are no alignments in this drawing. There are 23 parcels, no pipes, no structures. Okay, so that's what has been exported. There are 5 points in there, Now those are just street lamps. They're not going to make any bit of difference at this juncture. Okay, so I now have an SDF file for my parcels. So we're going to come back, and I'm going to go ahead and bring them in. So let's bring back our data sources here. Okay, so I did create an SDF, and I'm going to use my parcels from before, and we're simply going to say open. I don't want the points, I just want the parcels. We're going to say okay, and under configuration, these are going to be coverage areas. Okay, so we've already created one for our overall boundary, but I want to create a coverage area based upon my parcels. Now the same situation applies here. It's going to find the coordinate system and translate it properly. I do want these to drape for the time being. Okay, so I'm going to go out and I'm going to select a style. Okay, and I'm going to go ahead and select grass again. We'll say okay, and we'll close and we'll refresh. So now we have our parcels, and we can get an idea of what's going on here as far as our grading. What do we have to look at? Okay, it's all about design and context. All right, so as you see, we're going to have a knuckle and a cul-de-sac. We're going to have a through road here, local road. We're going to have a collector, and eventually we'll tie into Spur Avenue somewhere here down on the south portion. Okay, so with that, now what I can do is I can actually go ahead and use my style palette to create a zoning map. Okay, well that's great. So we're going to come back and we're going to access our build and manage, and under style palettes I'm going to go ahead and look for coverage areas, and I've created one called zoning. So what I've done is I've basically added with my style, I've created a new coverage area, and I've created them based upon a zoning map that I found online. So just bear with me, it may or may not be something that you're familiar with. Okay, but I've got my industrial here, or my commercial, excuse me. So if I want to change this area here, I can simply grab and drag, and it's going to go ahead and update it so it shows up as my commercial area. Okay, we said that this was open space. Same situation. I've got right-of-ways. Simply drag it over. It's going to show it to us. Right? Multifamily. I've got educational or school is here. I've got water that's going to go up here. My pond is up here. It's the low spot of the site. Okay. And then I've got residential, so I can pop these in. Okay. So we can go ahead and take care of that. And you guys get, and gals, get the general idea here. Okay. Now again, if you need to, you can simply select show your contours, so you can create a pretty nice little zoning map that you can show people. They can understand. The client sees exactly what's going on in the areas that you're going to utilize for your zoning. You can take this, print it off, bring it up on your computer screen, show residents exactly what's going to happen, let them know, throw on a legend, and they're going to be able to see exactly what's going on. So visually, this is exactly what we want. We want to be able to show our customer or our municipality what we're doing in real time and what it's going to look like. Okay, now I've already gone ahead and I've actually created a roadway layout here. So this is what we're going to be able to accomplish within InfraWorks. Now what I've done is I've already gone ahead and I've thrown in this design road, I've gone ahead and thrown in my example here. So I've got a local road here to the left, and then I've placed a collector road in here. Now these are design roads using the design and manage tools that come with InfraWorks. So what I'd like to do now is I'd like to go ahead and bring in a connection for Jeffries Ranch Road. Okay, so with that, we're going to say that this is probably a local road, so we're going to select local, and we can select whatever style we would like. So we're going to go ahead and I'm going to select, we'll just go sidewalk and green space for the time being. Okay, so all I need to do is go ahead and click where I want to start, and I'm just going to go ahead inside my right-of-way, and we're going to drop it somewhere there, and hopefully it'll connect up. Okay. Now what it does is it places our vertical curves based upon a 30 mile per hour design speed. All right. So you can see that Jeffries Ranch Road, and we can enter a name here. Okay. Has a design speed of 28. So if we'd like to change that to an actual 30, we can do that. It will automatically adjust our vertical curves, etc. Okay. Now we've got somewhat of an issue here because we don't have an intersection. So we've got a tight spot. So we need to either bring our collector road up or down depending on what's going on here. We'll move it up just a hair and we'll see if we can connect and come back and actually get our tie-in. And I may need to just go ahead and add a PVI and move that up until I get my intersection. It's a lot easier than I'm making it here, folks, so bear with me. So I'm a little bit high. And I'm not quite there. Okay. And of course it's not doing what I would like it to do. Never fails. It's supposed to be able to move it this direction, but it's not going to allow me, and that's okay. We can come back and fix that later. The important thing here is that we actually got it to tie to this intersection. Okay. Now what we have and what I'd like to do is take a look at my design road because we had some serious relief here and it looks like I'm going to have some cut and fills. So what I want to do at least initially is I want to at least follow existing ground. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead, I'm going to select my design road. I'm going to go ahead and then hit review and modify, and I want to see what this road looks like in profile view. Okay, so it automatically brings up my profile view. It shows where I'm tying in, so it looks like what I need is I need to add a vertical curve here. So I'm going to add a PVI. I'm going to go ahead and drop it. Okay, so I can kind of at least match existing. And it's going to dynamically update my design road. Okay, now in this case, I'm following along, and I don't know that I want to actually come up and over and hit my intersection here because it looks like I've got a pretty good situation. But what I may want to do is go ahead and add a vertical curve and just kind of minimize my cut in this area. So we'll bring it up just a tad bit and we'll minimize our cut. Okay, so we can see that we're following along, it looks like pretty well. And once we've got that taken care of, we'll simply go ahead, we'll close our profile view. Okay. And it's tied in pretty nicely to our intersection. Okay, so it's gone ahead, it's automatically created it because we've actually got it right in this time, in this location. Okay, and I want to go ahead and see whether or not a roundabout might work. So I'm going to go ahead and select my intersection. And in this case, I can see my design card. I've got a junction type of an intersection. If I select the icon, I can go ahead and change to a roundabout. So we're going to get an idea of what a roundabout's going to look like. Now I've got different types of roundabouts to choose from. Okay, so I've got an urban, I've got a rural, I've got a mini roundabout. Let's take a look at that and see what that looks like. Okay, so there's our mini. That might be a better idea than what we're looking at. But again, you can see it in real time and you can make your assumptions right here and right now. So I'm going to go ahead though and I'm going to say urban double lane roundabout. Okay, and it's going to go ahead and update it. It's going to show it to me. Okay, that looks about like what I'd like. Okay, so if I was going to put a roundabout in here, that's how I would do it. I am going to come back though, and I'm going to change back to my intersection. Now it's going to make some adjustments back. Perfect. Because what I'd like to do at this point is I'd like to go ahead and add some widening. And I'm simply just going to drag my little gizmo there, and we'll say turning into our design road here, we want it to be about 50 feet. Okay, so it will automatically adjust. It will automatically add my turn lane. Okay, and I can do the same thing here. So I can add a right turn lane. We don't like those much here in Birmingham, Alabama. They don't believe in right turn lanes, but I do. So we're going to go ahead and add a couple. Okay, it's going to go ahead. It's going to change up the striping. It's going to change my street the way that it looks. It's going to automatically adjust it and bring it back in. Okay. Now we could go ahead and take this off, make the adjustment in profile view. But again, we're just bringing this in conceptually, but I can go ahead if I choose to do so and make my design changes here. Okay. This is actually pretty ugly. So in this case, maybe I want to spread out my vertical curve, see if that makes any change. I might want to go ahead and drop it a little bit. Okay, but I want to smooth it out. Not too bad, I suppose. We could do worse. Okay, so what I've got here now is I've got my design road. I've got my parcels. Okay, and what I'd like to do now is go ahead and bring in maybe some parking. So we've got our multifamily up here, and I can bring in some pads and some parking striping that I've created. Now I've done that in civil because it's still a lot easier to create in civil because basically we're just using some simple AutoCAD. Create it with vehicle tracking if you have it, okay, because that will make your life a lot simpler. But we've got two multifamily buildings here, we've got some parking, and we've also gone ahead and we've got some striping. Okay, so with that, we're going to go ahead and use the SDF file. So we're going to go ahead and create one. We're going to map DWG to SDF. I've already created one here, and that's the one we're going to use. I've also gone ahead and created one, I believe, for striping. I have. There it is. Okay, so we'll jump back to InfraWorks, and we'll bring this in. Okay, and I think in this case, I'm going to go ahead and try to create a different coverage area based upon my huge slope here, I don't really want to go ahead and deal with that as far as grading it, so to speak. So what I can do is I can go ahead and bring in a coverage area, but maybe what I'd like to do first is start to make this a little bit tidier, so to speak. And I'm going to go ahead, I'm going to bring in some trees. So I'll bring in a row of trees, and I can select which ones I'd like. We're in California, so we'll go ahead and put in some nice palms. There's a South Carolina palm in here somewhere. And we won't worry about that. We'll just use this one. Or maybe we just want some hedges. So we can go ahead, maybe drop these in. I'm just going to draw a row. So we have some sort of a buffer. Okay, now it's going to space them kind of weirdly. So if I hit escape one time, I've got my slider bar here so I can change the density. Okay, so you can see it's going to add more. Now, what I need to do here is because I have a row, I can simply click twice on one of the objects and increase my density some more. So I can actually go ahead and fill it in. Now I also want to change the size. I want these pretty large. Okay, so I can go ahead and start to create a buffer here. Okay, great, no problem. All right, so we're going to come back. We're going to create a land area. And let's see, let's just make it gravel median. So we'll just start here. Down, we'll just kind of eyeball this, so to speak. Okay, it's going to throw in my coverage area, at least it should have. Let's change this, see if it's going to show up for us. There we go. Okay, so I can go ahead and raise it up. I see how it's dropped off here. But I can go ahead and make my changes. So if I want to, I can bring it up individually using my gizmos. Okay, and your InfraWorks is going to automatically adjust. You're going to start to see it improve the layout, so to speak. So if you want at least a general sloping away and from our surface, we can do that. Okay, I'm just going to go ahead. We're going to get rid of it and take it off. If I can here. And if I can't, that's not a problem. We can always Control Z and jump back. Okay, so if you see something you don't like, you want to get rid of it, you can simply Control Z and it's going to take it out for you. All right, so we'll just go ahead and deal with that. So we'll go ahead, we're going to throw in maybe a couple of buildings here. Just come back to city furniture. And again, we can see the different types of buildings that we do have and the facades that we can create. I'm going to go ahead and select city furniture. And I've got a post office, a couple of post offices, a church. I've got a couple of buildings that I can utilize. Residential, we'll just throw one in. This is multifamily. We'll just say that this is what's going to be here. So we'll drop that. Okay. And we can go ahead and place it, rotate it, etc. We can change the height. Okay, so if we have a different location, we can drop these in as well. Okay, so we can start to make this look a little bit like what we would like and what we want. So we can go ahead and select, and if we hit Control D, excuse me, if we hit Control D, it allows us to make a copy, and then we can place this wherever we would like as well. Okay, so we'll drop that in right there. Okay, looks good to me. Now let's go ahead and take a look at our parking. Excuse me. So we're going to come back to our data sources. And I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to bring in the SDF file that I created for parking. We're going to configure that. Okay. It is a coverage area. And I'm actually going to give it a material for a roadway. And we're going to drop it down and we're going to say surface light. We're going to close and refresh. Okay. And what we'll do is this. We'll come over to our surface layers because we can adjust. We do have layers in InfraWorks. My sketched coverage area, I'm actually going to freeze for the time being and say OK. Okay. And in this case, I've actually already brought in the buildings, but we'll get rid of these. Okay. But you can see here's my parking area, and I've got it set up so that it is concrete. Okay. Now there's that nasty slope, but we can take care of that. And what I also want to do now is I want to go ahead and bring in my striping. And with that, I'm going to access, and I'm simply, in this case, I'm just going to bring it in and drag and drop. Okay, it's automatically going to go to my data source configuration file. I'm going to call this a coverage area as well. Now for my rule style, I'm just going to give it some color. So we're going to make it white. Okay, so my stripes will be white. Now when I'm bringing in line work, InfraWorks doesn't understand lines. So I have to actually give it some width. I have to give it a buffer. So if I go to my table and I give it a 0.167, okay, so if this is a 3-inch or a 4-inch wide stripe, I just divide the width of my stripe and put that in as the buffer. So it's going to place, excuse me, width on each side of it of 0.167. And if I close and refresh, we're going to go ahead and we'll get rid of this. Drop that over. We can see our parking area. Now once we get to this point, you know, we can go ahead, we can add areas of trees. So if we want to do a stand of trees here, we can do that. We'll go ahead and put in some deciduous. So maybe we want to bring an area of trees here. Again, we want buffer. Okay. We'll hit escape. We'll give it a little bit more density. They're bringing them in random height. Okay. So we'll go ahead and drag those up so you can see. We've got furniture, so we can bring in cars, we can bring in vehicles. Let's go ahead and we'll bring in an ambulance. Somebody had a heart attack. They saw the steepness of the hill. Just simply drop that in. Okay. And now we can start to make this a little bit more realistic here. So you can bring in all sorts of things from city furniture. We've got fire hydrants, points of interest. You can bring in trains. You can bring in people. So if you want people walking in, you can make this as realistic as you need to in order to get your point across. Okay, and again, these people are adjustable. Turn them around. They're going to be walking this direction. We can move them closer to the door, etc. You can also create, instead of a stand of trees and actually using trees, you can go ahead and create using people. So we'll go ahead and just select a woman here. So if you need to populate an area, okay, you can go ahead, increase your density, and we've got a crowd, just like that. Okay. So with that, now we can also go back to Civil 3D. Okay. We're happy with what we have here. I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to close InfraWorks. Because what I'm going to do now is I'm actually going to try to bring in, okay, my design road here. So what I want to do is I want to insert my model from InfraWorks. I cannot insert it while InfraWorks is open. Okay, so I need to go out and take a look at it, find it, and it should be under webinars. Actually, you know what? I think it's, well, it's not there. It's under my documents. InfraWorks models, 360. Let's go by date modified. There we go. And I want to bring in the SQLite file. We'll say open. It's going to go ahead and take a look. It's going to find it. Hopefully it's going to do our coordinate system. And it may take a minute or two. There it is. Okay, it's automatically going to transform it. What objects do I want to bring in? In this case, it says all objects. I can take a look. It can bring in design objects, so we'll do that. We'll say open model. And it's got to go ahead and read my InfraWorks, my SQLite. And I don't have any surfaces. It's going to bring in my entities, as you can see. Okay. And it's going to go ahead and bring in the surface. Okay. It's going to go ahead and bring in an alignment for me. So this is kind of ugly. So what I would do is I'd create a composite surface with my new roadway surface here, right, as you can see. So I've already got that taken care of. No problem. So we'll go ahead and we'll select the surface. We'll right click. We'll go into Object Viewer. And we can take a look. Now I've got a hole in here. Not really understanding why everything looked good in InfraWorks. But we can see exactly what's going on in context. Okay. So with that, we'll close that off. We are getting to the end of our time. Okay. So with that, here is our upcoming Hagerman and Company training schedule for infrastructure courses. We've got an AutoCAD Civil 3D new user class beginning April 4th. That is going to be a 3-day course, and it's going to take place here in our Birmingham offices. It's a hands-on introductory level course that covers the essentials of Civil 3D. We'll teach you how to work with point data, create and analyze a surface, create sites, model roads, corridors, etc. We also offer an InfraWorks 360 new user class. Typically that's going to take place online as e-training, and the dates of that is to be determined. If you're interested, please contact your salesperson. They'll be able to give you some more information on that. That class is going to teach you how to use your design process to create 3D models like I just showed you, so we can create, evaluate, and contextually design our projects with InfraWorks. The last 3 chapters of that course will cover the add-on modules, so roadway design, bridge design, and drainage. Okay, so there's that. Just remember, Hagerman is your full service reseller from consulting and review, software implementation, application support, and system maintenance. We are there with you every step of the way from start to finish. With that, does anyone have any questions? Give me just a few more seconds. If you have any, to type them in. Okay. We thank you for attending. And as Ashley said initially, you're going to have a link of the recording of the webinar. So if you want to share it with other folks in your office, that will be forwarded to you via an email. And that would be coming shortly. And again, this has been a presentation by Hagerman and Company and by Autodesk. Thank you again. Ashley, if you could take it away.
Well, I don't have anything further, Scott. Thanks for the great presentation. This will conclude our webcast, and we'll see you all next time. Thanks.